Hello, everybody. There's a bit of an issue on this planet at the moment. There's lots of issues on this planet at the moment, but one of the biggest issues, I think, there's a core to a lot of the misunderstanding that we have on this planet. And I really try with my thoughts to pick at the fine threads. Do you know what I mean? And one of the fine threads that my mind has been picking at recently is the irritating idea that religion has anything to do with the supernatural. People keep saying this. I keep on watching YouTube videos and they're talking about religion and saying that religion is the study or the belief in the supernatural. And it's really not. It's really not. It's really not about the supernatural at all. It does deal with the address the idea of the natural being more than what we see, which is a really the biggest element in religion. That the word religion comes from the word relique, which is Latin to bind. Okay, so a relique is like a fossil or a bound thing, and relic means to bind, or reli means to bind. A religion is how do I say, the following of the binding, to follow binding, which is to say that, how do I say, religion, the purpose of religion is to form a practice of binding us and our consciousnesses into a state of regularity and an idea of the future. Religion is basically a way of saying, bind us to a plan. Do you know what I mean? Like a religion. It's a relic ion, almost like the relic in action. And like, how do I say? It's really important that we understand that it's got nothing to do with the supernatural, because it's the very natural. It's the right here. It's the instantaneous. Language is a relic. We are bound to this language, and so we have this set of relics that we call the alphabet, and each one of them is an individual relic that has amazing power that resonates throughout time. That's what religion is. There is a religion where we follow the reliquary of the alphabet, and they are fossilized into individual relics called symbols, like A, B, and Z. So the idea why religion has so many symbols is because the idea of religion is basically to bind huge concepts into smaller symbols, which is why when you see these symbols, they mean something. You look at the cross and it's like the north, east, south, and west of things, or the, how do I say, the north, east, south, and west with the root in earth. It looks like a human body. It looks like so many things because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to draw your attention to the fact that you are a relic, that you are a reliquary of knowledge and consciousness. And almost like the idea is that if it is supernatural, it's that the physical has been bound to something more than physical. Not supernatural, superphysical. Do you see what I mean? We have superphysical entities, and those superphysical entities could be called gods. Some of them are superheroes. If you will now imagine for me Superman flying across the sky, that's a super physical entity. Do you see what I mean? It's hyperphysical. It's more than physical. It's a representation of the physical in the spiritual. And so every bit of supernaturalness about religion is actually only speaking about something very, very normal and very, very there. When people say, oh, do you hear the voice of God? Perhaps what they mean is, do you have an inner narrative? Have you found yourself yet? You don't have to go to India to find yourself. If you want to find yourself, think the word elephant, look at the person who said it in your mind and say hi. That is how you find yourself, actually. Do you see what I mean? And if you don't have an inner narrative, just keep thinking the word elephant over and over again until you can hear it. Until you can hear it off in that dark, quiet space, and where, how do I say this? Where the voice of unconscious constant reason thinks before you think. That's where God's voice is. It's very easy to find. It's all very easy. And I think on some level, the reason that they make it about aliens and the supernatural and about things that obviously don't exist, which a lot of these things obviously don't exist, is because they wanted to take us away from the idea that it's about every religion is about viewing yourself as a relic of universal power. Okay? So let's imagine that we have pre-Christian religions whereby a lot of the religion isn't about a God in the sky. It's not about the parts of the universe that are telling you what to do. It's about practices that you can do to make yourself more powerful. So many religions at the, how do I say, throughout the growth of civilization, and I'm going to call this the peak of civilization, even though it's still growing, but this is the peak, that was the growth. So many religions throughout the growth of civilization were focused instead on giving individuals personal power. And we can see that these religions are often much less successful because it doesn't require, because there's nobody at the top of them trying to control a lot of people, trying to accrue a lot of money. It's basically just groups of people teaching each other things, giving each other relics of invisible knowledge that they can pass down through generations, teach to their children in stories, in inventions, in recipes. These are relics. You know, these are books, are relics, reliquary. And I guess on some level, that might be why they called it the Bible. You know, if you're going to give everybody a relic to end all relics, then you would have to make it the relic. You could call it the relic. Do you see what I mean? Or the Bible, the book. Do you see what I mean? It's a very deep control mechanism. The narrative of religion that has been given to us is a very deep control mechanism that is designed to take you away from your God. Your God is inside you and inside me. God translates to got or goth or to have, or a reference to the Goth people. And on some level, how do I say this? It is very likely that it's just another way of saying master in another language. Do you see what I mean? That we would all be praying to the Lord and also paying taxes to the Lord of the land lets you know that the religions are set up in order to funnel your cash and ideas towards a higher power, and that higher power is not benevolent. The idea that there's a higher power doesn't make it benevolent. If I am the water, then the higher power is the coastline. But it could also just be a pipe, you know? Because that higher power, it's a sick guidance system. And I think our religions at the moment have become a sick guidance system that is designed to distract us away from the fact that there is nothing supernatural about the divine and sacred relic of the human body. You know? Perhaps we could see that supernatural idea where we think, oh, does that mean magic? Not necessarily. The way that they talk about homosexuality, they say that it's supernatural. Do you see what I mean? That it's not natural, that it's outside of the lines, you know, women having too much sex. It is taken to be supernatural, as in it's not natural. Not supernatural as in magic or special, as in not natural as in damnable. You know, and the reason they don't want women having sex is because the government don't want you to breed your own armies. And the reason they don't want men having sex with each other is because men who have sex with each other are usually A, more sensitive, and B, more powerful. It's a dangerous world we live in where the most simple of ideas can be poisoned and conflagrated with our own destruction. Like masturbation made poison and conflagrated with the destruction of your own sense of self. You know, you shouldn't feel ashamed to be human. You shouldn't feel ashamed to be living a life and feeling the needs that you have. And if you were given better religions that taught you what was natural and didn't try and act like the idea of religion or reliquary was the pursuit of something unnatural or supernatural, like the achievement of savior status or the achievement of the one, the achievement of being better than everybody else, which every spiritual person hopes to claim not to be a part of that game, but actually we all fall victim to savior complex. That's why we became spiritual, because we wanted to be the ones who were different than the problem. And so on some level, there comes this point in the spiritual evolution where you really have to realize that you are only as far along your spiritual journey as the most imprisoned person on the planet. which becomes it becomes important to realize that you can't be enlightened on your own. You can't achieve a supernatural state of being like Superman or Jesus or Buddha, you know, and then somehow exist separate from the problem. Does that make sense? Or somehow raise yourself higher than any other level of consciousness? Because on some level, that just means that, how do I say this? Superman will never understand the criminal. He will always be seeking to put them in prison, and so he will always be generating more prisons, more criminals. Jesus Christ will never be able to understand the truly evil or perverse, thereby judging, how do I say, thereby creating a world where people are expected to be Jesus and are thereby creating themselves as the evil counterpart. There is no way to yin without the yang. And on some level, the idea of the supernatural and the idea of giving us religion and making it something magical and something unachievable as the yin gives us the yang of feeling like our lives are unachievable, and that a connection with the universe on a natural and instinctive level is something magical and strange, and it is not. It's baby talk. And I hope you understand what I mean when I say that, where I say that, like, baby talk is the purest of spiritual tongues. I would even say that, like, actually it sounds a lot like the angelic language of the Alua and the Abaya and Bababa, all of these kind of, how do I say, angelic and mothering letters and tongues that are used. I'm not going to explain what that means, but if you understand, or if you can feel that certain letters have a more angelic and sensually pleasing and blissful essence around them, M's, Mama, Lala, Baba, Shasha, all of these ones. And I shouldn't have gone for the SH because it's a bit more developed in the spiritual evolutionary alphabet, but the point is that from a very young age, almost birth, I would say even birth, we speak a primal and distinct language that connects us straight to God. And when we learn to get in the way of that with our emotions and with doubt, when we question whether or not God exists, rather than just listening to ourselves existing, that is when we get in the way of our own supernatural ability to be the next step of nature. Religion is a downward staircase. A downward staircase towards the evolutionary state of the person who started it. If you follow a religion 2,000 years old, then your consciousness is 2,000 years unevolved. And unfortunately, I live in a country where our consciousnesses have been imprisoned into being reset and recycled. Absolutely reset and recycled. You notice how all of the television shows are always the same? There's always the same story over and over again, over and over again. It's because they reset and recycle the human consciousness back into the White House, back into the Houses of Parliament, and they ensure that your money is going back to the place where they want it. I don't want to feel like we've lost the war. I don't want to feel like I'm ranting, but I do want to let you know that there's nothing supernatural about religion, that I personally think ghosts are really obvious, and that thoughts are just the dead people who have let go of the physical body still chattering and talking. That's why sometimes they don't make sense and they don't seem like they're for you, because they're not for you. They're just there, so listen in, get some ideas, but don't ever pick up those beliefs, just have ideas and believe in your own experience, If someone tries to tell you that aliens have landed, think back over your life and try and remember the last time aliens landed, or last time you saw a real alien. Because this is one thing about the truth and knowledge. Knowledge is fairly common, All of the things that have been invented were obviously there for anybody to invent or discover. Gravity was there. Isaac Newton didn't invent it or discover it. He just noticed it. Do you see what I mean? And that's how amazing the universe is that all of the supernatural things are there for you to notice. So the next time you get a head rush and your eyes start going a bit blurry, and you're like, whoa, hold on a second, I'm going off into a different realm, of consciousness, and you get that sparkling colors going in. Notice that it happened. Do you know what I mean? You might very well be missing a lot of spiritual cues and synchronicities because your mind is devoted to viewing religion as a supernatural event, and it's not. It's tiny. It's right here. And if you saw the spark in my eye, then you should know what I'm talking about. This is magic.